Hey guys, it's Zaria. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I hope you will hit that subscribe button for future I hope you will hit that subscribe button to see me mess up my sentences even more. I hope you will hit that subscribe button for future Disney content. I do lots and lots of Mickey ear tutorials. In fact, I have an entire playlist with over 20 videos on it, so if you want to check that out, I will have it linked in the description box below. But today's tutorial is obviously featuring these awesome light up Tiana ears. I love these ears. I did make them for an ear swap that I already did. I will have that video also linked in the description box below so you can see the reaction of the person that I sent them to. This set of ears, I did decide to use a stitching method. Like when I made the ear, I decided to sew them as opposed to using my no-sew method. If you are not comfortable sewing, that is totally fine. Please refer to my no-sew method, which I will have that video linked in the description box below, as well as in a card above. I hope I'm pointing to the right corner. I never point to the right corner. But I hope you will refer to that if you are not comfortable sewing so that you can still make these beautiful ears. The ear is the only part that I used sewing on, but again, you can use the no-sew method that I have in another tutorial. The crown itself I made out of wire, which I've never done on my channel before, so this is kind of a first time. But of course, you guys know me, I had to make them light up because I have an obsession with light up ears now. Alright, without further ado, let's get into this tutorial. Okay, so this is footage from me making some Lion King ears, but I used the exact same method. So first you're going to need to cut out the ear templates that I have linked below in the description box, and you're going to need to start out with the ear cutting line template. Now for a patterned fabric, you're going to want to trace around whatever pattern you're wanting, but for this plain fabric I'm using for Tiana, it doesn't really matter where you place it. Then go ahead and cut it out. I do prefer using my rotary blade to scissors because I get a much cleaner cut when I do it, but you are more than welcome to use scissors. I have used scissors tons and tons of times making ears. You are going to need to cut out 4 of these. You're going to need 2 per ear, and that is the case for the no-sew method as well. So now you're going to put these right sides together, which basically means the pretty part of the fabric together. And you're going to go ahead and pin it and then take the ear sewing line template and trace that onto the ear. And this is going to be your stitching line. So I take this over to my sewing machine and then went ahead and stitched it shut. Except for the bottom, don't stitch the bottom shut. So go ahead and take some craft foam now and trace the foam and batting template. This is going to be what gives your ear a sturdy shape, and what I have been doing is taking it and hot gluing it down to a second sheet of craft foam. This makes it to where I only have to cut out 2 of these instead of 4, and they are still double layered in order to give my ear a really nice shape. So again, go ahead and cut these out. I have found it very helpful to cut on the inside of the traced line. If you cut on the outside of the line or even right on the line, sometimes these can be just a little bit too big for the ear. So that's just my personal opinion. I do feel like cutting on the inside of the tracing line helps a little bit. So as you can see here, I have stitched my Tiana ear shut. I'm going to go ahead and turn it right side out. I will tell you these satiny fabrics are a little bit tougher to work with just because they tend to pucker pretty bad. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the foam and fold it kind of like a taco and then place it inside of my ear and flatten it back out. You just want to make sure that it is big enough to give your ear the right shape, but not so big that it's curling on the inside. I did decide to make these fluffy ears, so I took a little bit of stuffing, pulled my stuffing apart, and then I'm placing it inside the ears on both the front and the back. Make sure you puff up the ear and have all the stuffing kind of evened out across the ear to where you don't have any really large bulges, I guess. And then you're going to go ahead and take your hot glue gun and close up the ear. This is probably the trickiest part and the part you're most likely to burn yourself on, so please be very careful and take your time. Again, that satiny fabric's just a little bit harder to work with, but I will say if you're going to use some trim, you can usually cover up any little imperfections that might show up. So this is what the ear looked like after I closed it all up. And next you're going to take some floral wire. I found this really pretty green one at the Dollar Tree, so yay, $1. And then I went ahead and printed off this picture of Tiana's crown to use it as my template. I will have a picture or a link to this picture in the description box below, and it is actually on a Google Doc so that it stays in the same size that I used it in. So I started out by taking my wire and just kind of trying to shape it to each section of the crown. Originally when I tried this, I tried to do it all as one piece, and it was so much more difficult to maneuver it. So the easier way is actually to do it in sections. So Tiana's crown has 5 major pieces, so that's what I went ahead and did. And then I just took the wire and curved it on the bottom and then moved on to the next shape. This wire from Dollar Tree, oh my gosh, I cannot recommend it enough. It smooths out beautifully. It is so easy to work with, and it's $1. It does only come in colors though, so it comes in gold, green, red, and purple. Luckily for this, it worked perfectly. And this is my second shape, and I'm just trying to give it that nice kind of point at the top and smoothing out any little bumps that may have happened while I was shaping it. Again, that's what I love so much about this wire, is you can continue to manipulate it as you need to. And now I'm moving on to that big centerpiece. So this centerpiece, I actually shaped it and kind of left it alone in the video, and then I went back and kind of messed with it a little bit more, just because I felt like it was a little bit too, you'll see, like the tip top just didn't really look right. It had like a weird kink in the side, so I did go back and fix that. But again, it's just, this wire is so great to work with. I highly, highly recommend it. This is also what I use to make my wire ears. I literally sound like I'm advertising for Dollar Tree. This is not a sponsored video. Okay, so I'm just going to show you these 3 pieces together, and then you guys can do the other 2 pieces. Okay, so now I have my ears. I did go ahead and cover up my headband. I do have tutorials on how to cover up a headband. I will have those linked in the description box below as well. And then I'm using my ear spacing template. This is how I get my ears perfectly spaced apart. This also is in the description box below. So I just went ahead and printed one of these on cardstock, and I use it pretty much every time. So I place my headband down, and then I go ahead and mark with a disappearing ink marker. By the way, I get those at Walmart. And then I apply hot glue to the bottom of the ear and firmly press it down onto the headband. And then I do the same thing on the other side. So now that the ears are all attached, I'm taking this really pretty white kind of braided sequin trim that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I am placing that all around the edge of the ear. And then just snip off your excess and continue hot gluing. I do highly suggest working in sections on this, because if you do all of the hot glue at once, you're really kind of working against the clock, and you don't want to misplace the trim anywhere. Also, with this particular trim, I did find it easier to apply the hot glue to the trim as opposed to the ear. Alright, so these are the LED lights that I used. I will have these linked in the description box below, and I did buy a multi-pack, but I think you can buy these in smaller quantities in colors. So the easiest way I found to do this was actually to go piece by piece with the crown. So I did the first piece. Now I'm going ahead and wrapping my wire around to do the second piece. My biggest advice to you is to count out the light bulbs though, because I actually ended up having to redo this because I got to the end of the crown and realized that I didn't have enough bulbs. So my strand had 20 lights on it. I ended up deciding to only put 2 bulbs on each piece of the crown, and then the rest of the lights I layered underneath the flower crown that I added to it because I really wanted the flowers to light up as well. But that's of course personal preference. I'm just telling you this is the easiest way. So before you glue the crown down, before you glue the pieces together, start by wrapping the lights. And this is what all 5 pieces look like after they are strung together by the lights. And then this is the excess lights that I have to lay underneath the flowers. So at this point, I had already glued my flowers down. Don't do that yet. You guys get to learn from my mistakes. But start with the crown now that it is all lit up and ready to go. Obviously, you want to start with your centerpiece because you want to make sure that it is perfectly centered for you. Apply a pretty generous amount of hot glue onto the bottom of that wire, and then do not burn yourself. Firmly press this down onto the crown. You don't want to press down too firmly because obviously you don't want to ruin the shape that you've created, but you do want it to adhere pretty well. The good thing about doing the flower crown over the wire crown is that it's going to provide an extra layer of like attachment, if that makes sense. So it's going to further attach your crown down and just secure it even more. That's why I highly suggest doing both. Okay, and now that we have that centerpiece down, I do have this part of the tutorial slowed down because I really want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing, because I know the flowers were kind of in the way. So I did end up pulling this flower off just so that you guys could see a little bit better, and it's okay because honestly it didn't even leave a mark. So now I'm going to glue down the second piece of the crown, and I have it open as you can see, so now I'm going to go ahead and pinch it closed. And same thing, I'm going to apply a little bit of hot glue down to the bottom of that wire and then press it down onto the headband. So now I'm moving on to that last piece, and it's the exact same tactic, guys. Pinch it closed, and then I'm going to apply some hot glue, glue it down to the headband, and then I will go back and cover up this bottom with the flower that I took off. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this flower now, but I will tell you guys, make sure you have the entire crown glued down first because it's just easier to work with it like that than going backwards like I did. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish the other side of the crown now and do the exact same method that I showed you guys on the other side. Okay, and now I'm going to show you what it looks like when you're gluing the flowers down. The crown is on there, but it is not lit up because, guys, I'm just the smartest. I glued the crown down before I did the lights originally, and then I had to go back and fix it. But that's okay. They did turn out beautiful in the end, and that's all that matters. So I did get this flower strand from Hobby Lobby, and these are actually the same flowers that I used on my Meg ears. But I did have to go pick up another strand because I actually used all the flowers from the Meg ears. This strand was $5 and it's ginormous. It's one of those ones that you put in like a really big vase, but the flowers are just gorgeous and they match pretty much everything. So I personally would only do one side of flowers first, and then you want to leave the back open so that you can go ahead and place your light switch inside and hide it. So again, please don't do the back of the flowers. Go ahead and just do the front, and then you're going to start wrapping your lights throughout the flowers. So what I did is I just kind of went in like a figure-8 pattern, wrapping my lights around each flower to give them like a glowing effect, if that makes sense. I just thought this made it look so magical. Like Princess and the Frog. This is what it looks like close up, and some of the wire might show through. All you have to do is really just position your flowers in a way that will hide it, and if you need to add a little bit of extra hot glue, go for it. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how I hide my light pack. So you're going to want to wrap the wire that does not have bulbs on it around the light switch pack. This does make it harder to replace the batteries, and I, being a dingus, glued my light pack down on the wrong side. You want to make sure that those little tiny screws are facing up so that you can replace the batteries as needed. I have done other light up ear tutorials where I did a much better job placing the battery pack and showing you how to do that. So I will have those linked in the description box below as well. If you do it the way that I did it, that is okay. I will tell you guys, these flowers, if you need to remove them, you can. And then you can just glue them right back down where they were and nobody can really tell the difference. So now I'm just going in and filling in the rest of the gaps with the flowers to hide any wires and the light switch pack as well. And this is what the ears looked like, all lit up and done. I hope you guys liked this tutorial. Please leave comments below if requests for any future videos. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.